All right, now, as we count down to the much anticipated G20 Leaders Summit, we're joined by the University of Free State Chancellor, Professor Bonang Mohale, who's going to talk to us more about the business aspect of this G20. Professor, it's good to have you here. But before we begin this conversation, is there worry, not only for you, but for the people that will be gathered this weekend, whether this summit will be foreshadowed by politics? And there's a reason I'm saying this to you. There's a report from Bloomberg, and I want to quote directly from this before we continue with our conversation. Their headline is saying, the United States warns South Africa not to issue a G20 statement after the summit. And I just want to go one or two lines deeper. The US has formally warned South Africa, and this is apparently through a diplomatic communication that came on the 15th of this very month. That tells you just a few days ago. The US has formally warned South Africa against pushing a joint statement at this weekend's G20 summit in Johannesburg that the Trump administration is boycotting. And I want to go to a direct quotation. And it goes, the US opposes issuance of any G20 summit outcome document under the premise of a consensus G20 position without US agreement. This is what the content of that diplomatic communication said. What are we faced with here, Professor?
So first, we shouldn't be surprised, because unlike the UN Security Council, where the US, together with other countries, have a right of veto, this is a group of 20 biggest economies in the world. So if there's 20 participants and one does not come, the 19 are here. So there shouldn't be a problem, because the US does not have the right of veto. But we shouldn't be surprised, especially because President of the United States 1.0 demonstrated beyond any shadow of doubt that he's against woke institutions, he's against multilateralism, he wishes that he was a monarch and a dictator, but unfortunately, the biggest economy in the world is a democracy. Now, Trump 2.0, he knows at the most he's got only 4 years. That's why these edicts, sometimes 3 a day, that's why the only mechanism and currency is the tariffs. So we're dealing with a bully, we're dealing with somebody who hates Africa, who's a racist, who's a homophobe, and somebody in the first few hours of him assuming office wanted to erase diversity, equity, and inclusion. When you go into the system of the US of A now, you can't find the first African woman this, you can't find Gordon Powell, the first Secretary of Defense, as a black man, because they were all erased. So when you are confronted with somebody like that, our forebears tell us, if somebody hates you and they don't like you, don't try and convince them. Rather, you walk away. So I think we walked away. The show is going to go on this weekend. There are the other 19 countries. We can't be, as I end, go back to the 25th of February, 1838, during the Berlin Conference, when a few countries sat around the room and divvied up Africa. The US of A is less than 5% of the population of 8.2 billion. Yeah. They still think that they are running the world and they have the right of veto. Xoli?
I'm so happy to have you here, Professor, because you're able to simplify things or matters that really could be communicated very clumsily by a person like me who has no deeper understanding of what we are faced with here. And I want us to continue to have this simple conversation for the viewer to understand and be taken along. And so President Trump is acting in this way, but is it the political elite or is it the administration of the United States that is on this path? Because not too long ago, in fact, it was this Sunday, I was talking to Kes Kuvadia alongside the chair of the Trade and Investment, Busi Mabuza, in studio here, who said to me that the US business delegation is here. They will be in South Africa. So the political figures may not be here, but the US is here, the business people. But the question is, how confident are you that they can make business decisions outside of the political environment there? Are they able to do that with free will, or are they constrained?
In fact, they're not constrained at all. I've been blessed with some amazing opportunities because I've personally led not one, but 3 business delegations to the G20. The first one was to Tokyo, spent a week there. The second was Osaka in Japan, a week there. But I also accompanied the sitting president to the G7 Toronto as part of the G20. So when it first started, to understand the history, it was the 20 biggest governments in the world. But very quickly they realized that when country to country are talking business, it's individual business people that sign the deal. So it's a Naspers that talks to NVIDIA. It's not government to government. Yeah. Then they created the Business 20, and they changed their name from the biggest 20 economies of the world to G20 so that they can say B20. Yeah. Only in 2020 in Saudi Arabia, then they came up with a Velus 20. That's why I'm a Sherpa of Velus, which is only 5 years old, because they realized that we talk this nice English, but the quality of lives of the majority of the people in the world is not improving. Yeah. In fact, less than wholesomeness rules. But I think let's understand Trump's behavior and the people who elected him. And I'll forward only 3 reasons. Number one, the US of A has woken up to the fact that this notion of globalization has not worked for the majority of the middle-class Americans. Those are the people that voted him in. Yeah. Number two, they've realized that they've already lost the trade war with China. You just have to look at the automotive industry, even in this country. Yeah. We used to pay 2 million rand for a certain car. They bring a car with the same features, if not more, for 800,000. How do you compete? Lastly, I think the President of the United States 2.0 realized that because I've lost this trade war, it's like playing chess. You are just about to be checkmated, so you kick the table so that you reset. That's what he's doing. So Xi Jinping's response is very telling, because when he says 150 tariffs here and the rest of the world is running around, he was calm. And when he's asked why, he says, look, the US of A is a 300-year-old economy and country. We are 5,000 years old. They plan for the next quarter. We plan for the next 50, next 100 years. President of the United States 2.0 is there for a maximum of 4 years, no more. Yeah. If there are primaries and they lose some seats, we only have to worry about him for 2 years. That's why he's not having an ulcer. If you understand those geopolitics, you will understand that this too will pass. The business delegation of the US is here in spite of a dictum from him to say the US of A must boycott. Yeah. He can only instruct the politicians to boycott. The business people have now reached a deal, and that's going to be part of the recommendations to the Leaders Summit, the G20. The other 19 will look at it from the values, women, youth, and they're going to issue a communique, with or without the President of the United States 2.0.
I wish I could ask you this one last question, but I know you. You're going to take long. And so
I'll give you 2 sentences to disappoint you.
Okay. Do you think we'll come out with a declaration here?
Of course. Every single country has done that. What's different with us?
Okay. Professor Bonang Mohale, I wonder whether you are convinced in that way, partly because countries like France, apparently President Macron, is on board that South Africa, at the end of this summit, a declaration will come.
19 countries. But that's how the system works.
All right. Professor Bonang Mohale, thank you very much. I wish we had more time. Look at this. 1 minute to go before my colleague, Katlego Msomi, beats me over the head.